I am Anil Kumar. Welcome to my YouTube channel and the website Global Math Institute. In this video, we'll discuss about coterminal angle. We have 8 examples for you. You need to state one positive and one negative coterminal angles for each given angles, right? So 4 of them I've taken in degrees and 4 of them I've taken in radian measurements. Remember one thing, that pi radians is basically equal to 180 degrees. That is to say, one full circle, which is 2 pi, is 360 degrees, correct? So that is the relation between the two. So those of you who have yet to start radian measurements may actually look into it. It's very important. Radian is also default unit for angle measurements, and in calculus we use only radian measurements. Therefore, as a part of pre-calculus, I'll encourage you to look into radian measurements also. So let's begin with the more familiar degree measurements. We are talking about coterminal angles, right? It really means what? It means that if you are looking at some angle, then this is the initial arm, which is along the positive x-axis, and let us say that is your terminal arm, right? Then all the angles which are kind of like this, which terminates on the terminal arm, are exactly same, right? Since trigonometric functions are periodic in nature, so this is same as that value of the trigonometric ratio. Also, we could have kind of one circle, and then we could terminate. So you can go any number of circles around it. That is to say that theta, we could add to this plus minus n times 360 degrees, right? So when you do that, you come back to the same point on the terminal side of the angle, right? So that is what it is. So you need to add or subtract 360 degrees to get to the next coterminal angle. Now let's look into the question. Precisely, it is state one positive and one negative coterminal angle. So for example, 250 degrees. So 250 degrees will actually be where? Let's try to visualize it, right? So 250 is slightly less than 270, so it is somewhere here, right? So that is 250 degrees. So to give one negative angle, I could say we could go clockwise in this direction, right? So that is also terminating on the same where we are saying it is 250 degrees. Makes sense, right? So how much is that? Well, 90 plus 20 it is, right? Because that's where it is, right? So 90 plus 20 is 110, but negative. You get the idea. So 250 plus what will give you 360 makes sense. So 110 degrees negative. That is one coterminal angle. We could also now give another positive coterminal by adding 360 to it, right? So basically what we are doing here is adding and subtracting 360 degrees to get the answer, right? So when I subtracted 360, I got 110. Now if I add 360, then the other coterminal angle can be, adding will give me 0, 6 and 5, 11, and then 610 degrees. Makes sense, right? So that becomes the other coterminal angle. Perfect. So that is how we are going to answer these questions. I hope it makes sense. Now let's look into the second example, which is we are looking at minus 200 degrees. So 200 degrees negative means we are slightly more than 180, rather 20 more than 120, correct? So this is 20 degrees, correct? And the total is 200 degrees, 180 plus. And minus because we are going in clockwise direction. So to get the positive coterminal angles, what we could write? Let's see, coterminal angles is what? So we could go like this, right? So if I go like this, how much do I have to make this angle? Well, 20 less than 180, right? So this angle we can clearly see is 160 degrees, right? So one of the coterminal angles is 160 degrees, right? The other one we could do more 360 negative. That is to say, we could add another circle to this, correct? So you go round and round and then come back to this point, correct? So that means we go minus 200 and then minus 360, correct? And so we get minus 560 as the other angle. So definitely you can write down the coterminal angles as 160 degrees and minus 560 degrees. Makes sense. So I hope you're getting the concept. Perfect. Now let's look into another angle which is given to us, 1000 degrees, right? Positive 1000 degrees. Okay, so 1000 degrees means what? Well, every circle around a point is 360 degrees, right? So 1000 will be, so if I go one circle 360, another 720, another, if I go like this, then I'm getting to see 360 times 3 is how much? 3, 6 times 3 is 18, 8, 1 and 10, 80. So we'll land up, after the third circle, we are going to land up here, right? 80 degrees, right? That means somewhere there. So let me draw this. So that is your 1000 degrees, right? So 1000 degrees basically means we have got 3 full circles plus 80 degrees. You get the idea. So the coterminal angles are in positive. I could take 80 degrees, right? Makes sense, right? So our answer for coterminal will be what? Well, one of them is 80 degrees, which is positive, and the other one, which we could go in the clockwise direction, kind of like this, right? 80 less than 360, right? So basically, you can say 360 minus 80, right? So which means 280 degrees, correct? So 280 degrees minus will be the other angle, correct? Does make sense to you, right? So 80 makes 360 full. So that is how we could write down our answer. So I hope it is making sense to you. Basically, we are looking at the point on the terminal arm. How do we reach there while going clockwise or counterclockwise? Perfect. Now, the last example for degrees before us is minus 395 degrees, right? So minus 395 means you'll go one full circle clockwise, which is 360, and then 35 more, right? And then you reach here. So this angle is 35 more, correct? So the coterminal angles could be minus 35 degrees, that could be one negative, and the other one we could come like this, correct? Which is 360 minus, let me work out, 360 minus 35, correct? So that gives me 5, and from 5 if I take this and then 225 degrees, correct? 225 degrees. Makes sense. So I think some calculation wrong. It has to be more than 270. Okay. So 5 take away this 325 degrees. Sorry. 325 degrees, correct? Let me rewrite this. So that shown counterclockwise 325 degrees. You get the sense, right? So we have actually found the coterminal angles for all these angles. I hope the concept is clear. Now let's look into the scenario when the angles are given in radians. So the very first one is 11 pi by 4. So let's try to understand how do we figure out where 11 pi by 4 is. So pi by 4 is kind of like this, right? So this is like starting with 0, right? 1 pi by 4, 2 pi by 4, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, right? And then 9, 10, 11. So we get 11 pi by 4 is here. So now coming to this place, we could do counterclockwise to get 1, 2, 3 pi by 4, right? Or we could go clockwise 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. negative. Makes sense? So easy, right? So in radian measurements, it is actually much simpler, right? And you get your answer. Perfect. Now, the next one here is minus 5 pi by 7. So let's see if figure out how to do this, right? When I say pi by 7, that means this pi is divided into 7 equal parts. Minus means we are going clockwise, and 7, and we are only picking up 5 parts out of it, so we'll land up here, right? So definitely 2 pi by 7 is left. You see that, the calculation? So this is your 5 pi by 7 minus, right? Now, to get you the positive and negative angles, the positive angle will be this much, which is 7 plus 2, 9 pi by 7. Makes sense? 9 pi by 7, right? The negative angle, I have to add another 2 pi, right? So that is to say 14 pi by 7. If I add more to this, 14 plus 5 is 19. So minus 19 pi by 7 will give me the other angle. So basically what you need to do, you have to add and subtract 2 pi to get the coterminal angles. Same concept as we did for angles in degrees. We had to add and subtract n times 360. Now keep on adding and subtracting 2 pi. You can say 2 pi n could be 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. Makes sense, right? Now here we have 100 pi by 3. We need to now figure out what could be the coterminal angles, right? Well, to this number, 100 pi by 3 really means what? The pi is divided into 3 equal parts. Think like this, right? So we have 3 equal parts here, right? 1, 2, 3, right? So that is 3. And then we have 4, 5, and 6. So this is like 6 pi by 3, right? 2 pi is 6 pi by 3. So if I go with the multiples of 3, if I go with 6, I will land up here, right? So you could actually divide this by the multiples of 3, right? So, and then see where do you land, correct? So, or you could divide by 6 just to see the full circles, right? So if I divide 100 by 6, let us say, we could even do 3, right? So if I divide with 3, you get what? 3 times 3 is 9, right? And then 10 again, 33. So 33 means you'll go like 1 and 2. So even time you land up here and odd time you land up there. So 33 means you are here. Correct? So 33 means you are here, right? And 100 is one more. That means you'll actually land up in quadrant 3. Makes sense? Try to visualize this, right? Now once you identify where the terminal arm is, then writing answers is not difficult. So clearly, if you land up in quadrant 3, which will be the case for 100 pi by 3, the positive angle can be 4 pi by 3, correct? And the negative angle is, you can go 1, 2, 3. So pi, so this is like minus 1 pi by 3, 2 pi by 3, right? So minus 2 pi by 3. Does make sense, right? So that is how you get the whole thing, correct? And you can yourself see that if you add them up, you get a full circle. Perfect. So that's how you could give your answer. I hope it's making sense. Perfect. Feel free to write your comment, share your views, and in case you want to learn from me, you can always send an email on the address given. Now let's take up the last example here. I'd like you to pause the video, answer this question, and then check with my solution. Minus 25 pi by 8. So let's go. So let's begin. So if I go pi by 8, this is 8, right? 16. Do you see that? 8 times. And then this is 24. And this is 25 pi by 8. So you land up here, right? So that is where you land up for minus 25 pi by 8, where the related acute angle is pi by 8. So now you can figure out what is the answer, right? So to terminate in the positive direction, that is counterclockwise, you are pi by 8 less than 8 pi by 8. That means 7 pi by 8, correct? And in moving from this direction, you are pi by 8 more than 8. So minus 9 pi by 8. Makes sense, right? And if you add their positive values, you get 16 pi by 8, which is 2 pi, and makes sense. This is correct answer. So there are ways to check your answer also very easily. Perfect. Anyway, I hope you have understood the whole process of how do we find coterminal angles when the angles are given to us in radians or in degrees, either way. Well, if you're seriously looking into pre-calculus, you should definitely see how do we work with radians. Perfect. Feel free to write your comment, share your views. If you like and subscribe to my videos, that'd be great. Thanks for your time and all the best.